I was 13 years old when I found out he had cancer. I didn't quite understand what that meant because it was very clear to me when I found out, he was a man of faith.
Welcome to Fatherhood Voices, breaking the toxic cycle. Dive in as real dads bear all, the mess-ups, make-ups, and every heartfelt moment in between. It's raw, it's real, and it might just change the way you see family.
Welcome to another episode of Fatherhood Voices. So I'm excited today because I have a brother that's in a coaching program that I'm in, and him and his wife have journeyed together, and I've watched them as breathworks have happened, and I've watched the compassion and just the amount of energy that they put into when people are in journey and them being able to help along the way. And they're coming to us from Canada. And not only does Aaron have an exciting story to tell about his upbringing, but also just exciting things that him and his wife Harsha are doing as they transition from Canada. Is it okay to say where you're going?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. You can share that. Why not? Let's
Okay.
get it.
And they're going to transition into Dubai. And, prior to turning on this and going live, we're having a discussion. And just to know that they're just such a young family and they're pursuing their dreams and their passions. And he's leaving real estate. And yeah, I'm going to be excited for him to tell a story. But it's just a testament when you start the process of inner healing, that it almost gives you the courage or that inner feeling to want to just go out and follow your dreams and your passions, even if sometimes you do leave family behind. But hey, that's what planes are for. And Aaron, I'm excited to have you on and thank you for coming on. And if you could just introduce yourself and yeah, we'll start off with little Aaron and how he navigated through,
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction, Edward. There's so much truth to everything that you just shared. And I'm really excited of what's to come in the future for sure. My name's Aaron. I was born and raised in Vancouver in Canada. And, you know, where would you like to start?
Just what childhood looked like for you. What
Yeah,
your mom and dad present in your life. Where did they come from? You know,
absolutely.
abs-
So my parents, my mother's from the Fiji Islands and my father is from Peru. So it's a very unique mix. I was born in Vancouver, but I had a very loving and supportive childhood. We are a very big family, and I have two brothers, one older, one younger. And then we also grew up in the household with my grandparents. So I was surrounded by my grandmother, my grandfather. Also, my aunt was living there at some point as well. So very, very connected family, very loving, very supportive. And that was a little bit about me growing up is I always felt that my family, I was very, very grateful growing up because I saw what I had at a very young age.
it's funny that you mentioned that because we've had guests on that didn't realize it till later on in life. Sometimes in their later teenage years or in their adult years, that they realize that they didn't have a lot of challenges and struggles that their friends had. And it's interesting that you realized it at a very early age. Is there something that happened, or how did you know? Like, how did little Aaron know? Like, I'm surrounded by love. Like, I have parents that are there. I have my grandparents there.
Yeah, I think because I was in a household where there was so many family members, I always felt that there was love around. And, we used to always sit down at the dinner table, eat dinner with one another, watch TV together. And my grandfather, who had a very big impact on my life when I was younger, because my parents would be out working, he used to be a mechanic and he used to work from home. So I would spend all my time with him, from the time I would wake up in the morning right till the time I'd go to bed. He would actually, I used to go to sleep with him as well. So for me, I saw that, but I think I didn't fully understand and was like to know how grateful I really was for what I had until, I would say the first big event happened in my life is when I found out my grandfather had cancer. And, I was 13 years old when I found out he had cancer. I didn't quite understand what that meant because it was very clear to me when I found out, you know, he was a man of faith and he practiced prayer. So, when he first found out, he reassured me that everything was going to be okay. And I think for me, when it was about 2 years after he had found out when he had passed, is when it really had hit me that this picture of my loving family that I had was going to change, and it was changing for the rest of my life.
And wow, and sorry for your loss. Looking back that you spent so much time with your grandfather, what can you reflect on were words of wisdom that just kind of cemented, like, I was loved by my grandfather?
He was always there for me. It didn't matter. I was known as like his little boy, right? So I'd
Mhm.
always be by his side. And he was always there for me. He shared a lot of love with me by, buying me, anything that I ever wanted to eat, or buying me candy, or taking me to the store to buy hockey cards. He was very giving, very giving. And I saw that in his demeanor, not only with me, but I saw it with everybody around him, which is where I think that space comes within me. I only not only saw that with my grandfather, but I did see that with my father as well, because my dad played a really big role in my life. I had two really solid male influences in my life as I was growing up, and even though my dad was working a lot. When he wasn't working, he really made an effort to be there for all my activities and always be there to support me. So I was very, very fortunate.
Wow. And I can definitely relate to that because my grandfather on my mom's side was like my dad. And the only difference was he was an alcoholic. He was in construction, he was a laborer. But of all my, all his other grandchildren, he would drink his Seagram's whiskey, sit at the table, and then he would want you to sit with him. And
Yeah,
nobody would sit with him, but I would sit with him. I would sit with him and I would hear him. And but he showed me love too. He'd take me to the store, he'd buy me things. I would say that he was my dad,
yeah,
and he just showed love in a different way. Later he just passed away last year, but
right,
later in life, as he stopped drinking because his body couldn't handle it anymore, he
yeah,
just softened up. Yep. So I understand that relationship. The one thing that the difference is he was very hard on his children, on my aunts and uncles, and just hearing that your grandfather was loving, I'm sure that that passed on to your father, and because of that, your father gave you that love. Is that fair to say?
yeah. So this was actually my grandfather on my mother's side.
On your mother's.
So yeah, it was my mother's side, and what I had noticed about both that grandfather and my dad is that they were very strong men. So they taught me, I saw the strength within them, even though they were very loving to me. I saw how strong they were and how giving they were to others. And I think looking back at that, it was interesting because I think a lot of us has this perception of as being a man, you have to be strong. You don't want to show your emotions. You need to, show up for everyone else even more than yourself. And I saw that with both of them because even though they're very loving, I didn't really ever see them share emotions at all. And I think that was one of the biggest things looking back now. I didn't know back then, but when my grandfather had passed, it was the way that I only knew to deal with his passing. There was no grieving period, because I knew I had to be strong. I had to be strong for myself. I had to be strong for my family. And I was only 13 years old when he found out he had cancer, and I was 15 when he passed. And so I feel like I didn't really handle it the way I should, and I actually just swept everything under the rug and sort of just let life go on. And that actually didn't occur to me till much later on, once I started introducing myself to plant medicine, where that started to show up again, and I started to realize that this is something that's still in my life. In fact, it's very much still in my body, and it's still very present. Is the passing of.
And being blessed that you came from a home that showed you a lot of love. Um, did that start to kind of metamorphose you as you shifted into the teenage years and into early adulthood? Did you also share that love as you stepped into relationships, friends? How did that show up for you?
Yeah, I love to be around people. I love to be around people. So I think I was very much them, where I connected with a lot of people. I shared a lot of love with a lot of people. I opened my home to friends as if it was their home. But the one thing that I didn't realize was the love that I was receiving from my grandfather after he'd passed. That love, a part of me was missing it. And, as a teenager, I didn't know where to find that love. So I seeked it out in different ways to cope with it. I started smoking weed in my teenage years. I was drinking alcohol. I was overeating because I felt as though, and I didn't know this back then, but I do realize it now, is these were ways to cope with the loss of my grandfather. These were ways for me to fill that void of the love that I was receiving when he was around when I didn't.
Oh, so you just opened up a Pandora's box, something very powerful,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of children that experience a loss of a father, parents, grandparents, and sometimes they come from homes full of love, sometimes they don't. But
Yeah.
now you, as a parent, looking back as you being an early teenager and losing your grandfather and knowing how significant he was in your life,
Hmm.
what are some things that the parents can do that are still here to help minimize that? Because it sounds like by not having that lack of love from your grandfather, you went into a different spiral of smoking and alcohol and so forth. What can a parent do if they lose their, let's say, uh, a child loses their father or their grandfather,
Hmm.
and they come from a place of love? And I'll just start there.
Yeah.
You going through your experience, what could your mom or dad have done to help minimize? And it could they have minimized it, or is it just something that just it was your journey and you had to unravel on your own?
Yeah, I feel like, most people are going through the grieving process themselves and they aren't even aware of what to do. But looking back at it, any advice that I'd give to anybody that has, a child or a teenager going through this is to really show support to them. Allow them and express to them that they're able to share what they're really, really feeling inside. And also, you want them to be able to release any emotions that they're feeling, especially if they're a young boy, because we're taught to be strong and you don't need to show emotions and hold it all together. But by doing that, all we're doing is we're suppressing it, and it's probably creating other things in our lives, and it can come out at any time. So really just being there and being a support for them and allowing them the space to really express how they really truly feel, I think is very, very important when it comes to a loss.
Oh, I would love to collaborate with you on that and just put together like a free PDF. One of the things we do is with the different podcasts, we try to extract best practices that we can offer as free resources. And I think this would be a beautiful 5 to 7 page PDF to just offer tools and resources, just like you're sharing, and dive a little bit deeper that
Hmm.
that mother or father or even an aunt or uncle could share and say like, hey, here's some best practices that I can do to help with the process. Because I love the fact that you said offering a real true space, basically a container, but
Yeah.
not on the surface. But it sounds like what you're saying is truly giving them the authenticity to say, let me share. You may not like what I have to say,
Mhm.
but let me share because this is my journey and this is how I'm feeling. And I want to be able to share without you getting scared that maybe I'm having suicidal thoughts or maybe I'm depressed and not feel like you're going to run and take me to therapy or go, because that's what happens is, and I just literally had this discussion 48 hours ago with someone that may be on the podcast. And it was a whole thing that when my children were struggling with their issues, it was hard because if they were going to go to therapy, it's like, okay, but you can't say this because we don't want them to escalate or bring in outside people. So, how do we provide a safe container or some type of resource that children can really go and share and not feel like there's going to be consequences?
Right.
Take all the legality out, take all that bullshit out,
Hmm.
where they can have that safe container. And that's what I heard you saying is
Yeah.
that safe container. And I think being able to extract that based on your story is going to be the start to something beautiful because this is happening every day. Every day somebody's experiencing a loss. And the parents are struggling because they've lost either a husband, a mother, or a father or mother. So on top of the adults grieving, now we have the children's grieving. And sometimes it gets lost in transition because the adults are numb.
Yeah.
It's like, how can we show up when we're still trying to figure things out? So I think there's a beautiful resource there that we can collaborate on, that we can offer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the most important thing with what you're saying is, as a parent or a caregiver, is to be the example. Share your vulnerability with them, because when they can look and reflect and see that, their parent or guardian or caregiver is really being authentic and sharing what they're feeling, then they feel like they are in a safe space to do the same, right? We're very intuitive, especially parents and kids. So we can tell when we're not fully showing up and being authentic. And so when we're aware of that, that doesn't give us that space, that container that we're talking about to show up in that. Yeah. And I wanted to touch on this because I was just having a discussion with Harsha outside of loss and grieving. The world is a crazy place right now, and there's a lot of things. And it's like, we have this little one, and Harsha had asked me, with everything that's going on, how can we ensure that, when we're not around, how can we ensure that Messiah is going to be able to show up and be in the world with what's going on? And I think the most important thing is that with kids today is that we're able to build up their self-confidence so that they are not needing the external world to justify who they are, right? If they have that self confidence, they'll be able to, really stand back, and things that are not right for them, they'll be able to, keep a distance from what doesn't serve them. But I feel like when you feel like you're missing something, then you're more receptive, you're more open to anything else in the external world that's going on.
Wow, you just touched on something. So I had a conference call yesterday with someone from Holland, and they came from the maternal health field and so forth. And what they're doing is they're helping moms now to start the process when the baby's in the womb to
Mm-hmm.
protect them, their energy to protect them. So I'm curious that, because you guys just had, the baby not too long ago, and then you guys have started your journey. How did you show up when you found out that Harsha was pregnant? And then, because it's important, because I honestly feel that, I've had Tourette's all my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly feel that my Tourette's came from a very toxic relationship that my mom and dad had. And,
Right.
and don't want to get too much into the dynamics, but it wasn't the prettiest thing. So because of the trauma, I
Mm-hmm.
feel that, when we go back and look at it, we feel that that's where it started. And then I pass it on to my kids because it
Right.
started in the womb, because there's no history of it. It's just, I honestly believe it was trauma. And then journeying and so forth, things start to reveal themselves. So I'm
Yeah.
curious how you showed up as a father to be
Yeah.
and with Harsha, and then, being you guys both on your journey, how did that kind of shit? And then also coming from a loving home, shit, you had a lot of positives in your in your corner,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when we first found out we were pregnant, I was very, very excited. And knowing that it was our first child, we, for myself, I didn't know what to expect or how it was going to be. And in fact, that was actually that same time when we found out we were pregnant was the first time I actually journeyed. I went to Colombia and I journeyed.
Wow.
And on my first ceremony, what actually showed up for me and what I released through a purge was the word fear. And when I released that, I didn't even know this. It wasn't even in my conscious mind, but I had a deep, deep, deep fear of becoming a father. And because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to provide, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to be the best role model for my son. And this all showed up for me after I journeyed, and then it became very present for me. So knowing that I had this fear, it was like, what can I do to become a better person for myself first, so then I can show up for my son when he arrives. And it's been a journey ever since my son's been born. I've really felt, just like, with plant medicine, when you become a father, it just starts, you start seeing more of yourself. And I've been peeling off layers and layers and layers of who I thought I was and really getting back to my true authentic self.
What's comforting is to know that, even because that fear comes from a lot of fathers to be that
Mm,
don't come from loving homes. that come from a lot of chaos. So it's reassuring to know that even people that have come from a place of love and a healthier family dynamic than say a lot of other people, that you still have the same fears. So that gives hope that we're not alone. You know, as fathers to be, we all go through the same emotional chaos, you know?
Of course. Of
And
course.
that's reassuring, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's uncertainty there, right? So I think anytime there's uncertainty in a person's life, there is that there could be fear or lack showing up, and that's where we sort of have to step in and lean in even further to who we are being, so that we don't swing to the other way. Don't swing into the fear and lack of life. Go into the love side of things. I think with the birth of my son, I had it all wrong. Before he was born, I said I was so excited, but what I was excited because I was thinking, oh man, I'm going to teach him everything I've learned. And I've gone on this journey of life, and, I've been here for 30 plus years, and I can't wait to share with him everything. And literally ever since the day he is born, he's been teaching me. I've been learning so much about myself that I wasn't able to discover until he was born. And if anything, I feel like he's teaching me more than I'm teaching him at this point.
No, I can relate because my youngest daughter just had a baby last year. So
Mhm.
so I'm a grandfather for the first time, and the most beautiful
Congrats.
thing about it, thank you, is I didn't do things right with my three girls. You know, I was still in a very toxic, narcissistic reality in my own mind. But just having her show up last year, in March of last year, it's just unconditional love.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, her showing up is something that was needed because we're a family that's healing. And there's been a lot of healing that's taken place over the last 4 years because I've been on my journey for 4 years.
Right.
And there's still a lot of obstacles. You know, I wish I could say go and sit with plant medicine and everything. I think sometimes plant medicine complicates it even more because it forces you to open up those doors that have been suppressed.
Yeah.
But having my granddaughter and just so full of love and so much innocence and just unconditional love, it's teaching us lessons. It's teaching us a lot of lessons. And I think the one thing I've become is almost overprotective. As soon as someone raises their voice, no, Bella, get her out the room. Don't raise your voice in front of her. You know, get that energy away.
Right.
Sometimes it's almost comical. I wish there was a camera just kind of recording because
Yeah.
we're so quick to want to shelter them. But then I have to realize that that's not the real world.
Yeah.
And just like you and Harsha were having that conversation about Messiah, and okay, we're providing this love in here, but what about the external world? And so there's a balance there. There's a balance that we have to figure out that you're not always going to be there. What if childcare comes into play? And if not childcare, what about when school shows up?
Absolutely.
How do you continue to protect the container that you guys have built? And
Yeah.
that's the real question there, you know, is how much do you put those layers in place? And I'd
Yeah.
be curious just to find out what your parents and what your grandparents did to keep that container of love contained for you as you were growing up.
Yeah. I feel like when I was growing up, I always felt like I had support. And even when I did things that were wrong, I was still very, very supported. And I think that's the most important thing. It's like letting your children know that even when they fail, that it's okay. Or even when they do something that's wrong, it's okay. I feel like most kids, when they fail or do something wrong, they think that they're going to be punished. And when they're going to be punished, it makes them want to hide things more. It makes them want to not fully express how they're feeling about what they're going through. And so I think real support is not only just being there for them, but also knowing that it's okay to make a mistake. And it's okay, like life is full of lessons and blessings, as I always like to say. So, whatever it is, there's going to be something good that can come out of
I love that. You know, I stumbled across a video not too long ago on social media, and I've been dying to try to find it again.
it. Mhm.
But basically, the essence of it was a father, every day he picked up his daughter from school, he
Mhm.
wanted to know, how did you fail today?
Yeah.
Tell me how you failed. Not the win, but tell me the failure that you had.
Yeah.
And it was an everyday occurrence through her junior high school years and high school years. And what it did, exactly what you said, it taught the daughter not to be fearful of failure. It taught her to go out and take risk, that
Mhm.
it's okay if you stumble. Oh, beautiful there. So I would just share that with you to not only as now you start to see the growth happen
Mhm.
over the years, to start to celebrate the failures, because I think back, man, if my parents would have just celebrated the failures with me,
Mm.
man, the world would have been unstoppable, because it's that fear that we build up over time. No,
Yeah.
you can't do this, or don't, they're trying to protect us, but no,
Yeah.
let's celebrate the failures so that I can go out and generate and build, and
Yeah, not all, and it's not only the kids; it's the parents as well. Celebrate the failures. Like we're not perfect, and especially if you're doing it for the first time, you're gonna mess up, right? So celebrate those failures as well, and that way you don't start creating stories. And because when you start creating stories, or you start looking at your partner and you start creating stories about them, that's gonna be a reflection in your relationship at the end of the day. So celebrate. It's interesting. Harsh and I created this thing where when somebody breaks something or somebody spills something, people are always like, "Oh my God, you did something." But we say it's good luck. We just created that. One day we're like, so anytime Messiah spills something or he breaks something, we're like, it's okay. It's good luck. It's all good. Like great things are happening from it.
that's freaking awesome. So you definitely have to include the failure piece in your relationship counseling, which we're going to dive into a little bit, because I think
Absolutely.
that, like I said, I was just focused on the kids. It was right there in front of me, but you just said it. Even us, being entrepreneurs, I think part of our journal needs to be, what's one failure you had in the last 24 hours? Oh my God,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
can be me. What's a failure you had in the last 24 hours?
Yeah. Not
So
only that, what can you learn or what can you grow from that failure? Right? Take it a step further. Go dive a bit deeper.
wow. And you
Yeah.
can take that into a relationship. What's one way that you didn't show up in your relationship in the last 24 hours?
Exactly.
Maybe I didn't say I love you. Maybe I left angry, So
Mhm.
there's so many different ways it can go. But I think just putting it at the forefront,
Yeah.
that's powerful.
Yeah. It
That's
is.
powerful.
It is. Yeah, there's so many teachings in relationship to self, relationship to your kids, relationship to your partner. And that's what's really exciting is like even when I look at Messiah, I mean, he's about 2.5 now. And I looked at how I was showing up for him in his first year. And to be honest, looking back at it, I would have now with my second child, when that time comes, I'll do things a bit differently because I noticed that I was in this space where I just was worried about providing. So I wasn't really being as present as I should be. I wasn't, spending as much time. And I was in this space where I was just like out there working, grinding, just trying to make sure I could provide for him. And at the end of the day, that is very important. It's an important part of it as well. But at the same time, the biggest thing that I've learned about since having a kid is time moves a lot faster. And I can't believe how quick he is growing. And so I would say in the after his first year, I started to really realize that I'm not actually going to get these times back. And so knowing that, I'm trying to be more present. I'm trying to be there for him more. I'm trying to spend more quality time. And even with that, we noticed that his relationship to me has changed because I felt like the first year he didn't even really want to be with me. He just wanted to be with Harsha the whole time. Where now, he's gravitating to me more. He wants to show me what he's up to and what he's doing, and he's happy to see me as well. And so there's so many lessons that I've got, you know, so far in the 2.5 years we've been together. Yeah, just some that I can share with you right now that are off the top of my head is just being more present, not being on your phone, right? Like that's a big one because it's so interesting because it's almost like he can tell if I pull my phone out because he'll just start ignoring me. And so that's one that's really stood out is just be more present. The second thing is really, and it's actually helped me not only with him but with everybody in my life is get down to their level. When he's crying and he's like, just losing himself or whatever's going on, is instead of trying to bring him out of it or tell him like to stop doing what he's doing, it's like, okay, I'll get down low, I'll meet him face to face, ask him how is he feeling, comfort him, give him what he needs at that point in time. And usually those outbursts don't last as long as they should, right? So
That triggered a memory right now when you were sharing that. I remember when I was in the police academy, and there was one of the recruits that was there with me. I remember when his parents would come to visit for, like, their visitor days and even for graduation, and we're now in our early 20s, and he would grab his dad and kiss him on both cheeks,
mm,
grab his mom and kiss him on both cheeks. But and we became friends, and every time I would see him when he would leave, that was just tradition. And to me, that was weird because, that wasn't something that we did in our household.
yeah.
Then I think back to, I have all girls, they're adults now, but I think back to my oldest when she was 13. Dad, you need to stop kissing me on the cheek now. And I look back and I regret that
mm,
because once I stopped, I could never get that back.
yeah.
And then to go back and look at, here's a grown man that showed just adornment for his parents because they built that kind of connection. Doesn't matter who was around, like, this is how he showed his love. Like, thank you, my appreciation. And so the one thing I will share with you is never stop kissing them on the cheek.
Absolutely.
I don't care as they go into junior high school, as they're going to high school, because in my mind, I was like, what the fuck is wrong with this family? But it wasn't. It was love.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it took me decades, fuck, almost 5 decades to realize, like, that's beautiful. I don't have contact with them, but it was like that with all their kids. They established that container. That's how they express themselves whenever they, were leaving for the night or the day and so forth. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing when you take out the ego. What are other people going to think? Or, man. And yeah,
Mhm.
when you were saying that, it just triggered, like, I wish I would have listened to my girls and I wish I'd have kept, even if it was a virtual kiss, but let them know, like, no, I'm not going to stop because you need to know that I love you. And so that's a memory that you triggered for me right now. So thank you.
I can relate to that because our family does exactly that. Whenever we see, it doesn't matter who it is, an aunt, uncle, grandfather, we always give them a hug, kiss on the cheek. And I can relate to your daughter because I remember being in high school and getting dropped off by my parents, getting dropped off by my dad, and having to lean over and say bye and give him that kiss on the cheek. And I didn't like it because people are watching me; they can see me from the cars. But we always continue to do that. And when I look back at it now, I'm very grateful that we do.
Wow. So I'm sure you're going to go ahead and pass that on
Oh,
with your
absolutely.
family and as you have more kids and so forth.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's even important with Harsha and I when we see each other, we always acknowledge each other first before our kids, before I acknowledge Messiah. And I think that's very important because most people, and especially in a relationship, their focus is they'll do anything for their kids. So what happens is when they have kids, their just focus is all there, and what happens is their relationship tends to start to get further and further away. So we have to make sure that, as an example, that we show our kids that the relationship that we're in is very important. So, and that Harsh and I always acknowledge each other first. We say hi to one another, and then I'll go say hi to Messiah, and he sees that.
That's powerful because I'm thinking back, as you were saying that, I was thinking back to how many times I use that, but in the opposite way.
Mm,
I use that as a way to hurt their mom.
mm,
It's like, I'm going to acknowledge my girls
oh,
first. And you saying that just, I started thinking about, did I ever do that? I'm like, no, that was a form of narcissistic behavior
yeah,
that I would do that to my kids. Like, no, I'm going to show them love, but I'm not going to show you love. I see you, but I don't really see you because for whatever was going on, they're going to get the loving side of me. But if I was mad or pissed,
yeah,
you're not going to get it. You're going to get, oh, hey, is dinner ready? So that right there, there's medicine there. That right there is an Instagram post. Acknowledge the mother, your wife, your partner first,
right.
because that almost sets the foundation.
It does. It does absolutely, and I think it sets a foundation for your kids to see how important partnership is as they grow up, because at the end of the day, who are you spending the rest of your life with? It's your partner at most. One day your kids are going to leave. They're going to go and branch out, go to school, or find a partner, or go get married. And the most important relationship outside of yourself is the one with your partner. And then it's your kids, where I think a lot of people have the other way around. They feel like their most important relationship is their kids and then their partner.
I read something not too long ago. It's kind of ironic that said that in today's day and age, a lot of divorces, I don't know what the percentage is happening after their kids leave the house.
Mhm.
And that's because the parents lived for their kids and didn't nurture the relationship. So now the kids are gone, and now you have two strangers that have never built that loving relationship because there was a lot of distractions and sports and schools. So now you have two people in the house, and it's like, we don't know each other.
Right.
It was a schedule, it was a constant chaos. So that's yeah, there's so much medicine in what you said because yeah, you I never really looked at it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Really, the
very.
kids were just I don't want to say an obstacle because that's not the right word.
Yeah.
The distraction is not the right word, but they're just a piece of the puzzle. But eventually, that piece is going to move on as they start their families, and
Mhm.
then you're left with the person that you created.
That's right. That's right.
Wow.
Yeah. And going back to that, it's like we see so many partnerships drift apart as time moves forward. And that's why it's very important to really practice connection with your partner. And with Harsh and I, right now we are actually, we have a relationship program called Revive Your Love Life. And an important piece to that program is connection. And when we talk about connection, it's not always just intimacy. It's really understanding being with your partner. In today's day and age, we see it all over social media. People are always posting they're going on date night, and we see them going to the restaurants or going doing an activity. At the end of the day, date night is great because date brings joy into your relationship, but there's no deeper connection there. I think that everybody does need to do date night, but what's even more important is to have a connection night so that they can dive deeper into the relationship, really allow their partner to feel seen and heard and feel loved.
So, give me an example of something a mother or father would do to their partner to have connection.
Yeah, and it can be really, really simple. Like some of the activities that Harsh and I do is we meditate together, for example. Another one we do is we do breathing exercises with one another. We'll eye gaze with each other. We'll put our hands on each other's hearts. We'll take 21 deep breaths in sync with one another. So we're connecting on a deeper level. Another thing is we prompt really um, challenging questions to one another to understand where we are in the relationship, how they're really feeling. Some of those things that our partners are going to express are probably going to trigger us. They're probably going to not make us feel the greatest. But if we are able to learn how to communicate with each other, it doesn't matter what our partner is saying, because a lot of the times what they're saying is a reflection to themselves. So there's learning on both sides. And that's how we can come together to become a stronger partnership.
So, you're doing real estate, and then when did this epiphany come to dive into relationship coaching?
Yeah, for us, it's been our journey. It really has. We originally came from we were young when we met. We met in the party scene, and we started dating, and we were both two wounded souls coming together, and we feel like we just been through a lot. Even most people they get married and they go through their honeymoon phase. The first year of marriage for us was one of the most difficult years of my life. I think it was the first time that I actually felt as I was suicidal, to be honest. I've never had those thoughts cross my mind, but because the first year of marriage was very challenging, very difficult, I just didn't want to be there anymore. Through that, Harsh and I had to make a decision. I think both of us knew that we there was a lot of evolution and growth to our partnership, and we both had to make a decision. Is this something that we really want? And when we did that, there was no turning back. So we dove as deep as we can through, coaching programs, just learning more and more about ourselves so that we can come together as a unit with each other.
And
And
you
from there, we became very, very passionate about our relationship. And we started to realize like we went through all this, we have all these practices and tools that we use regularly. And that's how our relationship has, grown from there. We're like, what is everybody else doing out there?
I love that you spoke about how you guys sought out, you know, resources and coaching and so forth to give you guys the tools you needed for your relationship. And it's unfortunate how many people don't seek out the tools. You know what the resources are? Is they're sitting around broken, wounded guys talking to other broken, wounded guys and complaining at get-togethers or at sporting events, and then broken, wounded women talking to other broken, wounded women when they get together at events, and then it's just toxicity. So to
Absolutely.
be able to have that realization and then together start the process of seeking out tools, resources, coaching. That's beautiful. And then to give you guys the tools you needed to say, like, wow, okay, now we can take our what we've learned and then also our story and start to ravel this into something to help other couples.
Yeah.
When I brought up the what does a connection exercise look like? Um, yeah, right away when you say date nights, yes, you're right. I see a lot of, Instagram date nights and so forth. But when you said connection, a night of connection, and then I was thinking in my mind, like, the fuck does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then it made sense when you started saying, well, what about meditating together? What about breathing exercises? Eye gazing. So tools that we've experienced in our journeys of plant medicine and so forth, but to able to take that and package it up and say, date nights are important, but that's surface level.
Right.
You want to go deeper into the connection. Wow, it sounds like a power. So, yeah, that program sounds powerful. So, tell me a little bit more about it, and if people are interested in something like that, how would they go about, seeking this out? Because I've never heard it spun this way, and probably
Yeah.
haven't sought it out. But this is, I just love the spin, and not the spin. It's the authenticity of
Mhm.
it. It's the authenticity of it because I never would have connected meditating with your partner, even though it happened, but not as a couple. It's been right there in front of me. I've been doing this for years, but or eye gazing. How many times have we eye gazed at different events or
Yeah.
ceremonies? Yeah.
Never with your partner.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important. It's so important. Um, and it brings me back. We actually are offering right now a free masterclass that we're offering our communities and our audiences. And in the master classes, we touch on what we call the three elements of a successful relationship. And those three elements are clarity, connection, and I don't know why that third one just slipped under me, but um, communication. There you are. So clarity, connection, and communication, and they're really, really essential and in a relationship because with clarity, we have to understand that where our partners are coming from. We have to understand that we all have this blueprint of life growing up that has shaped us and created our belief systems. So we need to understand, first of all, our own blueprints, and then we need to be able to have an idea about our partners as well. Because at the end of the day, when our partners are sharing anything with us, that is their truth, right? It may not be our truth, but that is their truth, where they are coming from. So we have to understand why that is that their truth, and we have to accept it and allow it as well. And the vice versa, the partner has to be able to do that for them. When it comes to communication, a lot of us don't know how to hold space, especially the masculine. The masculine, we want to fix everything. We want to provide a solution. We want to get to the root of the problem. What's wrong? Tell me how I can fix this. I'll go out there and fix this right now for us. And that never works, right? When you get into disagreements and arguments, or what the feminine wants is they want to feel heard. They want to feel safe. They want to feel seen. What communication tools do you have to be able to create that space for one another? And then with connection is exactly what we talked about. What are practices that can take it a layer deeper? And then when you get to be able to connect, the mind, body, and soul, then you're able to even connect deeper when it comes to intimacy.
Now I'm going to throw a wrench into this. I'm going to throw something out there. But first, I am going to say that this is powerful because this is a foundation for a healthy relationship that your children can see. So it's
Mhm.
all interrelated.
Absolutely.
But what about when, now this is going to be my ego kicking in. What about when you know your partners, they're sharing their truth, what they think is their truth, but it's not really the truth?
It's not their
What
truth.
if I know with 100% accuracy that what the truth that they're speaking is really not the truth?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Well, first thing is you need to be able to let your partner feel that you understand that. Most of the times, we're trying to correct them. We're trying to make them wrong. We're trying to show them that this is the right way. And right away, that's just pushing you and your partner further and further away. So once you're able to allow your partner to be like, felt seen and heard for what they're experiencing, that's when you can start communicating on a level where maybe things start to shift. It happens in our relationship all the time. Harsha and I are not perfect. There's times where she may be going through something and it doesn't resonate with me. But a lot of times, if I'm able to give her the space, allow her to feel the support, usually what's really showing up as the problem is not even the real problem. There's something underlying there. So we're able to get to that space, right?
Wow, thank you. I feel like I'm being coached right now, which is beautiful because I need this. Definitely not perfect when it comes to a relationship. Um,
We're all learning, we're all growing. That's the lessons of life, right? We're all here to evolve.
so now you've transitioned into relationship coaching. You're getting ready to leave Canada and you're going to Dubai. What, as new parents, I mean, I know not necessarily new, but fairly new parents, young parents, what just gave you guys the drive, the energy, the spark to say, we're going to get up and we're going to do this? We're going to another country far, far away, and we're just going to put this in play. Where does that come from?
It just comes from a vision that Harsh and I have always had. We've always wanted to be able to create location freedom and time freedom in our relationship. And it's interesting because we never knew how that was going to be there until we started showing up and being who we really wanted to be. And then things have just started to unfold. And it's not always a good thing that, unfolds, but we have to have faith and trust in life that it is guiding us to where we essentially want to be. So, with this move, it's something that Harsh and I have always wanted. We live in Vancouver, where we get 8 months of the year is rain, and we get maybe a good solid 3 months of sun. Harsh and I, from the time that we've started dating, we always said to one another, we don't want to live in the place where the cold climate. And so we never knew where that was going to be. We always thought maybe it could be like somewhere in the States, or maybe it'll be in Mexico, or somewhere else. But it just so ends up happening that the path that life has given us is the opportunity right now for us is to move to Dubai. And so we're excited about it because we feel that we get to step into something that we want to do even more of, and that's what our true purpose and passion is, and that is continue to grow coaching and to help others grow their relationships.
Well, making sure you guys have a guest bedroom because I'm going to come and visit you guys.
Absolutely, no, definitely, you got to come, 100%.
It's like as you guys started your journey. And well, let me ask you a question first. Who started the trajectory of plant medicine? Whose idea was it?
Well, that's a very interesting question because it's something that Harsh and I both felt the calling for. In fact, when we first got introduced, and the first opportunity for us to do plant medicine was in Colombia. So we actually had both registered to become to go out and do ayahuasca for the first time. But after registering, in fact, I think it maybe been just 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, we found out that Harsha was pregnant. So it was almost like the medicine was leading us that I was to go first. And I think it was very profound in that way because I was stepping into fatherhood and I felt like I really needed that. And in her own way, Harsha's pregnancy and giving birth was medicine for her. It was her own journey. It was without the plant medicine, right? So it's like we both were able to learn a lot and take away from our experiences at that time. And then, after she gave birth and we had our son, then it created the opportunity for her to go and experience plant medicine. And since then, we've both done it several times.
Wow. Have you guys done it together?
Yes, we did. We did. We
Okay.
did it last year in Texas together. It
Wow.
was great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful when partners can go and do it separate first,
Yeah.
to have them raveling and then come together and do it.
Yeah.
It just makes for a safer container.
Absolutely. Yeah. You feel a lot in those containers. So
Yeah. It sounds like, I know for me, I had to go through my healing process, and it's a never ending journey. Like I said, in nowhere am I even close to being healed, so I don't even like to say that word, but it's a journey. But going and working on myself and starting to purge out a lot of the trauma, the hurt, the pain, abandonment, and so forth. As I started to peel the layers,
right.
my purpose revealed itself, and that was Fatherhood Voices. If you would have asked me 4 or 5 years ago that I would be doing this, I would have said, "You're fucking crazy. Don't bother me with this." You know, but just as you start the process of peeling those layers, your authentic self starts to come out like, wow, there's a heart in here, that's just was hurt. There's a little boy that just needed to be seen and heard.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's what happened with you guys. Is as you started your journey, then it revealed itself. It's like, no,
Yeah.
this is our journey and this is where we were. And I honestly feel that some of the best coaches,
Mhm.
some of the best facilitators are the ones that can walk the what is it? Walk the walk, talk the talk, that have gone through it. And you can your greatest certification is like, well, this is where we were at, and this is what we've done, and these are the tools we put in place. And I feel that right there is, you don't need validation,
Yeah.
it's being able to share your story and being able to package it in a way that is, I'm going to say, user friendly,
Exactly.
but in a way that people can digest it, and not a lot of academia.
Right.
Just give me I always tell people, give me the meat of it. Just give, I said, what the fuck is a connection?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, why don't you eye gaze with your partner for 3 to 5 minutes and then tell me that you're not going to unravel some
Right.
deep hidden emotions,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Give me the meat and potatoes. You know.
Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. No.
Wow.
It's been a wonderful journey, and that's exactly how we feel. It's just unraveled, and I think a lot of people out there, um, the importance of doing the work is most people don't feel like they have a sense of purpose, and most people are looking for an answer. But I feel like once you've done enough of the work, that your purpose and why you're here in this lifetime will show up, and so that's why it's not. And some people, they're so much in their head that they're like, oh, I'm not getting it, or I don't have a purpose. It's like, no, it's there, but that's the reason why you need to do the work, is because it's going to get you to the space where it becomes clear to really what that is.
So I definitely want to take this free masterclass to start. Where do I go and find it if I want to take this class?
Yeah, so what I can actually do is I can provide you a link to register for the free masterclass, and I'd actually be open to even providing a link so that people can watch the replay, because we do have a replay available. So I can give that to you. I'm not sure how you can maybe include it or share it with your community,
Yeah.
and so that they have the opportunity to either sign up for a live one or watch the replay.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. I think this is something that all families need, to have stability
Mhm.
and a strong foundation. And I guess I'm going to end with this final question for you, and it's kind of a no brainer, but I do want to get your spin on it. Why is it important to have a healthy relationship component for your family and your children?
Wow, it's a loaded question.
Yeah, it is.
Why is it important? For me, why it's important is because when I look at why I'm doing all this work, why I'm focusing on this for my relationship, is because we have this one life here. We have this one life to really be someone, be something. And if you have children, you are their inspiration. You are their role model. And we see that how we're all impacted by our parents. And so for me, the reason why I'm so passionate about this work is because I want to be an example for my children and others, so that they can see what's possible.
I can honestly say now that I've been on this journey of self healing, that one of the greatest jobs in the world is to be a mother or father. And even for those people out there that can't have children, adopting or being a mother or father to your nephews or nieces, You don't have to be a biological mother or father to show that love and guidance and give that safe container to children.
Even for
It's just you
kids.
stepping up, you know. Wow.
Yeah.
Any closing thought? This was beautiful because I never know which direction they're going to go in.
Yeah.
I can honestly say with 30, 40 episodes in, and I don't think we've ever really touched on the dynamic of how important the foundation of the mother and father are.
Mm.
And this was beautiful because it takes us back to the basics. It takes us back to the basics. And what would be your final closing thoughts as we start to wrap up, which has been a powerful episode that meshes in not only parenting and fatherhood and even motherhood, but also the dynamics of relationships and how that shows up for our children, not only as they're young, but as they now transition into their teenage years and into adulthood.
Well, first, I wanted to say thank you for having me on because it was a great opportunity to speak with you today. And I want to keep it light. And this is not so much for the children, but it's for ourselves. And this is probably one of the greatest lessons that I've learned from my son is don't forget about who you were as a kid. Go out and have fun. Go out and do the things. What Masai's taught me is how to play again, how to like run around in the backyard, how to build things. I haven't done any of those things in years and years and years. And that's what used to light us up as kids. So if we remove that from our lives, we're removing a piece of our joy. And so go back to that. Be a kid again.
You're gonna make me go and buy some Lincoln Logs and some Lego sets today. Stop, man. No, you're the inner child, and it's so important. So thank you for that. That was beautiful. There's been so much talk, and I know we've done a couple talks on the inner child just in the last couple of weeks. And you're right. It starts with us as adults going back and playing with little Aaron or little Eddie,
Yeah.
and not forgetting the dreams, aspirations, and just living with no fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
No, well, thank you very much. This has been another powerful episode of Fatherhood Voices. I don't know, Fatherhood Voices, Relationship Voices. I don't know what the hell this is called anymore, but powerful, powerful words of wisdom. Thank you for sharing. And I'm excited about what you guys are doing to help other families start the process of creating a healthier, stronger foundation for their children to succeed.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Let me go and stop this. Bye.
Bye bye.